Another exciting week on the market. I'm Adam Anderson, owner and founder of WealthGuard Advisors.
Hello, I'm Blake Anderson, Certified Financial Planner. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, thanks for being here. We have a lot to talk about because last week was another enormous week with a big return of close to 4% on the week. So the market keeps rising, really driven by those AI-related data storage companies, really moving that market upwards. We talked about that last week, how the growth momentum areas. Does momentum always have to end badly? I don't know that it does. So it could still be going up. So we're going to keep holding on. Now, does anyone ever get the top and sell out of that time? Very few of us do. But we are enjoying some momentum, and we are taking profits in selective places and being very mindful and watching what's going on.
Yeah, just seeing more and more parabolic semiconductor stocks, tech stocks is moving into software now. We're seeing some very large moves in software and more broadly in the tech sector. So very exciting. Little bit crazy sometimes to look at this, but not necessarily unwarranted. We do see massive revenue growth to support these rapid changes in valuation. So while watching closely to make sure we don't get caught up in some sort of euphoric bubble, but I'm not quite sure we're there yet. I think there's still room for this market to run.
It does seem like it's spreading out a little bit, and we also had great earnings across the board, and we also had very good employment numbers come out, and we're going to see some inflation data this week, and then we have the president in China that could also cause some ripples one way or another, hard to tell. So we'll really be watching for the inflation numbers this week to see what happens. That could be something that shakes the market or any kind of strange things that come out of China. So that's something we'll be watching for this week. Otherwise, we're being diversified. I just want to back up and let you know that this really is for our clients so they know what we're thinking about and what we're looking at. If you happen to find us, please like us, subscribe, follow, find out what we're doing, or give us a call. We'll have our contact information in this video so you could follow us and see what we're talking about. Blake, we wanted to talk about space. We had a big space thing last time. I forgot to put my space in the background, but I was out in my yard the other night and I was looking to the west and I saw Venus right hanging in there in the western sky. And then Jupiter was just above it. And guess what? Over the next few weeks, they're going to come together and we're going to be Jupiter and Venus going to be very close together. So I don't know what that means, but I thought it's pretty cool to look at. Let's talk about space.
Yeah, maybe some astrology people out there could give us some insight. But yeah, obviously the big name in the space is SpaceX, and we keep hearing it from lots of different clients, just people on the street asking us, "Hey, what's the SpaceX? Can I buy SpaceX?" And no, it still hasn't launched, had its initial public offering yet. It is anticipated for June, late June, maybe. We'll find out when they get ready to give us the information. But as of now, it's just hanging out there.
It's supposed to be one of the biggest IPOs in history, trillion plus dollars potentially, and Anthropic is also coming out. So, uh, so some big stuff on the moves. So,
Yeah.
how do we like to take advantage of or try and participate in this, Blake?
Yeah, while we wait for that initial public offering, uh, there are some alternatives out there. There are already some space launch companies that are public. We've held Rocket Labs for a while now, and they recently had a very sharp move up. Talk about parabolic moves in the market.
43% in 2 days. Ah,
Yes. Another one we've been watching, though I just saw their earnings report wasn't very good, is ASTS, AST Space Holdings.
so it's up 25% last 2 days, but they did have earnings today, and I think if I'm not mistaken, it looks like it's down about 12%. So if you did buy it 2 days ago and you're up 25%, now you're down 12. I mean, hey, you still got a pretty good gain on a move like that. So, but earnings looks like they were not that positive. So there's some definite caution, red flag stuff there.
Yeah, and I think that's the general story to take from the whole space sector. especially once SpaceX does become public, we're going to be seeing these massive swings. Currently, the best exposure to companies like SpaceX is through a few private funds. It's a way for, you know, you and me, retail investors, to have access to these private companies. I have a couple here, XOVR, DXYZ, ARKVX, PRIVX, a number of funds out there that hold a fairly significant portion of SpaceX and other private companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, companies like that. They'll hold in these portfolios that you could have access to.
So you can buy an IPO before the IPO by buying it through a fund. I just want to caution people that if we do buy something like that for you through a fund, that normally, because it is not liquid shares, is not publicly traded, it's a pre-publicly traded stock. There is limitations on selling it. So you may have a window of time, only so much a month or quarter that you're able to sell, and that's if there is liquidity available. So if you were to buy something like this, you have to be careful that it may be there might be lockups and unable to liquidate. It doesn't mean there's penalties or anything like that, but it's just the liquidity. They don't have liquidity, so they have to wait for these lockup periods that you have to hang on to it. So make sure it's in a long-term investment account. You don't need the money anytime soon for sure before you buy something like that.
Yeah, and that's something that we don't is a little bit of a disconnect when you look at these private companies and you hear of their rapid growth and massive valuations. Well, when it's a private company, you don't have the day-to-day movements like you would see in something like this AST Space Holdings or Rocket Lab we looked at, where we could have big gains and big losses day to day. Whereas in a private company, you don't get that, day to day, minute to minute revaluation. So something to keep in mind of when we're looking at shares like that.
Hey, I wanted to say something about ASTS real quick. You know what? This really came on our radar because one of our clients brought it to our attention and we started looking at it. So it's not uncommon for our clients to give us an email or text or call us and say, "Hey, I've heard about this company. Could you look into it for us?" And then Blake and I dig deeper and do some research and then see if it looks attractive or not. So if you're one of our clients and you've been hearing about something, chances are we may have already heard about it or bring it to our attention and we'll do some research on it. Maybe something we put on our radar and becomes part of our buy list. So that's how this came about.
One other thing I wanted to look at today, I think it's time we revisit gold and silver, the precious metals. They had, a very strong end of last year. All of 2024, 2025 were very strong. And the last 3-ish months have been just this downward slide.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
15% right there from the February 2nd till now. So that's a pretty big slide. I mean, given the parabolic move it had last year, uh, you know, uh, I'm not surprised. And everyone says, "Hey, it's going to be a great year again for gold." I mean, look at this last 2 years, 164% up to that point where we just were measuring from, and then for it to come down in about 12, 13% there. Yeah, not not uncommon.
Yeah. One positive sign here that we're seeing is that we did get a higher low a couple weeks ago. We do the sort of zigzag pattern in stocks, but when we see a higher low, that's a sign that the market might be turning around on these precious metals. We see this in gold, we see it in silver, and a couple of the other precious metals.
Yeah. So just
And
for our viewers' sake, here's the low. Here's a low where it matched that low, and then it didn't come down and quite meet that low. So the next move would be to see a higher high would be the real confirmation that we still looks good.
yeah, so that's sort of what we're looking at. In the meanwhile, if you do really want to hold on to these precious metals, um, there are funds out there that allow you to get some yield while you're holding the precious metal. Is something we've been looking at as this has been sliding, but we still have a lot of people asking, "Hey, I want to own gold, I want to own silver." And while technically it's been in a bit of a pullback and we don't want a lot of exposure during this market exposure, it might be worth it if we could get some dividend yield associated with it using these funds use derivative products to derive some yield from the holdings.
Yeah, this has been one of my contentions with precious metals is that there's no balance sheets and there's no dividends. you don't, it is just, it's almost like crypto. There's nothing that you get from it. So when we couple a special fund that has what they're doing is they're selling call options against their holding to generate income. The yields on these could be pretty impressive. I mean, like, low double digits, 10, 12, 14% ish on this. And the one I've been using quite a bit for silver, and talking about that higher lows, here came down, we went up here, we got a higher low, and then we got a higher high on silver. So silver really looks good. But I think the one I've been using is called Curve Silver Enhanced Income, KSLE. And so it looks just like it, except the yield, don't quote me, but call us if you want to know what the yield is, but it's significant. And then the other one is actually not with gold. The one I've been using, it's actually the gold miners, is GDXY. And this one also has a very high yield. So just coming off this base here and moving up and getting a nice move. So I could collect some pretty decent income. I usually put on reinvest. So you're constantly buying up more shares along the way. Dividend reinvestment is the mother's milk of success in investing. So that's, it's always a good thing to do something up on reinvestment and just let it go and buy more shares consistently at different prices. It's good.
Yeah, just a reminder that this is not investment advice, as our disclosures explain, but just something that you might not be aware of and might be interested in more info about, and maybe it could be a good fit for your portfolio. If that's something that interests you, or we piqued your interest here, reminder, here at WealthGuard Advisors, we're a registered investment advisory firm, registered with the Security Exchange Commission. Part of that is a fiduciary responsibility to our clients, where we're obligated to act in our clients' best interest. So if you're interested in learning about what we could do for you, and perhaps we could give you some more insight on positions like these, and maybe if they're a good fit for your portfolio and your overall financial goals, we'd love to sit down and have a chat with you. We work on a straightforward fee-only basis, no setup fee, no closing fees on accounts, just transparent pricing for the services we provide. So if you're ready to take that next step towards a confident retirement, we'd love the opportunity to talk with you. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. We love you. Have a great week. Bye.